A few years ago, I reviewed the MR4 speakers from Edifier, and just like most of the Edifier stuff that I've looked at, I was pretty pleased with them. Well, fast forward a couple of years and we have these, the MR3 studio monitors. Edifier have revamped the design a little bit and added a few features here and there. So let's have a look at these latest studio monitors from Edifier and see if they're any good, shall we? Hi guys, I'm Matt and welcome to Kit Guru. So let's dive straight in with the design then. The MR3s are a compact set of speakers. The MDF cabinets measure roughly 29 by 14 by 20 centimeters. They're available in a black or a white finish. The white model that I have here for review are the much nicer option in my eyes, but that's a personal preference thing. The copper accents on the driver cover and the control dial complement the kind of black and white overall design really nicely in my opinion. The front of the speakers are finished in the same white as the cabinet and house the 3.5-inch drivers and 1-inch silk dome tweeters. The tweeters are surrounded by a dimpled waveguide as opposed to the smooth recess around the drivers. Now, to be honest, this sent me down a bit of a rabbit hole of audiophile forums. They're basically the speaker equivalent of holding your hands like this when you're shouting something, guiding the sound waves as they come out of the source, in this case, the tweeter. Edifier described them as enabling a flatter and more extended high-frequency response, leading to clearer and more accurate sound reproduction and more consistent sound quality across a wide listening area. We'll take a listen to the speakers in a bit, but for now, that dimpled finish, design-wise, looks pretty nice and it helps to break up the front of the MR3s. The sides have a slightly textured finish to them, almost imitating the feel of leather. I like how the MR3s look. They're modern, clean and sleek. They look great either side of the monitor on my secondary desk where I've created a bit of a music production setup. They definitely look the part to me. The bottoms have 4 rubber feet to help with isolation. Unlike the QR65s and the M60s that I've looked at recently, there are no angled speaker stands included this time around. The active speaker contains all of the controls on the front. There's the dial that I mentioned, alongside a pair of 3.5mm jacks for headphones and an auxiliary connection. And then you've got an indicator LED, which will change colour based on the current sound profile. It's red for monitor mode, green for music mode, and then white for the custom EQ that you can activate in the app that I'll talk about later. And then it'll blink when you have the speakers in Bluetooth mode or are updating the firmware using that app that I just mentioned. Moving around the back, there are a pair of bass reflex ports at the top of each speaker, and then the active speaker contains all of the I/O. There's a decent selection of inputs to choose from. You've got balanced 1/4-inch TRS inputs, which I'm using to connect them to a Focusrite Scarlett Solo 4th Gen interface. Then there's a pair of unbalanced RCA ports, and then you've got the 3.5mm aux port on the front. Then for wireless connections, more for day-to-day casual listening, the MR3s have Bluetooth 5.4 and they've got multi-point connectivity alongside that Bluetooth 5.4, making it easy to use them wired when you need them to be wired, like when making music or video editing, and then quickly switch into Bluetooth connected to your phone and stuff like that when it's time for a bit of a break or to watch a video or listen to some music or whatever. In terms of sound specs, as I mentioned earlier, the MR3s have 3.5-inch mid to low drivers and 1-inch silk dome tweeters, putting out 18 watts RMS per speaker, and then they've got a peak sound pressure level of 92.5 decibels. The frequency response range is 52 to 40,000 Hertz, and it's been tuned to be as flat as possible, enabling the MR3s to accurately reproduce sound in a neutral manner, or so they're aiming for, enabling you to listen to stuff as it was intended by the producer. We're going to look at some EQ measurements in a moment. On the back, there's a pair of dials for acoustic tuning, one each for both low and high end. The low dial will either boost or cut frequencies around 125 Hz by 6 decibels. And then the high end dial does exactly the same thing, but for frequencies above 10 kilohertz. For further tweaking, you'll need to connect the speakers to the Edifier Connects app via the Bluetooth connection. Inside the app, you'll find a few more settings. There's stuff for acoustic tuning and room compensation. There's a low frequency cutoff, an acoustic space slider for compensating for mid and bass boosts depending on speaker placement, and then finally a desktop control setting for countering reflections and reverb when using the speakers flat on a desktop. Alongside that, there are a few different preset EQ modes. You've got monitor, which should provide the flattest EQ overall and the most accurate sound representation, ideal for anyone making music or editing videos or anything like that, doing creative work and stuff like that. And then you've got a music mode, which is more for everyday listening and should have a more pronounced bass and high end, more of a V-shaped EQ curve. And finally, as with all of the Edifier products I've looked at so far, the MR3s also have the ability to apply custom EQ settings. In the case of the MR3 specifically, you can either add or remove up to 3 decibels across 6 preset frequency bands ranging from 250 to 8000 Hz. Weirdly though, there's no option to change the frequency or the width of each slider, as we've seen on previous Edifier products, so the custom EQ this time around is a little more restricted than we're used to seeing. Moving on to talk about how they've performed for me then, and I've been getting back into music production a bit lately, something I was really into back in my teenage years, so I was looking forward to seeing and hearing what the MR3s could do. As I mentioned earlier, I've had them connected to a Scarlett Solo 4th Gen interface via the balanced TRS jacks, and then also via Bluetooth at times to my phone for listening to music while getting some work done and stuff like that, when I wanted a few minutes to chill out. They're positioned on some shelves either side of my monitor, about 6 inches away from the wall. Overall, they've sounded great to my ears when in both monitor and music modes, and they do sound like they're well-balanced speakers. To add to my opinion of them though, I've decided to add some more technical measurements of frequency response to my audio reviews here at Kit Guru. To start then, this is the frequency response with the speakers set up at stock or in their out of the box configuration. They're in monitor mode with both adjustment dials set to 0 and no tweaks or custom EQ in the software at all. Above 200 Hz, the MR3s are relatively flat with a small roll off around the 4 kHz and 15 kHz areas. The low end is a little more varied with a clear dip of around 5 decibels at 85 Hz and a peak of roughly 12 decibels at 150 Hz. Adding in the adjustment dials on the back shows the 6 decibel tweaks that are possible on the fly by tweaking those dials. The orange line indicates both dials at their minimum, and the blue line is both of them at maximum, and then the green line is that same stock measurement from the previous chart. Playing with the acoustic tuning within the Edifier Connects app can mitigate some of the slight dips, but the low end roll-off is still present, although this could be further tweaked and accounted for with some detailed room EQ and kind of setting these speakers up for the room that they're in. Now, although the charts do show that roll-off at the lower end, this could well be due to my room and my setup. I have no audio treatment in my office area, and based on my opinion from listening to the speakers, they do still pack a punch in the low end, although it's not as powerful as some other speakers I've looked at from Edifier in the past. And finally then the pricing. If you want to pick a set of MR3s up in either black or white, then you can get a pair here in the UK for just 90 quid. I was surprised when I saw this pricing, to be honest. I think for that money, they're a bit of a steal. They perform really, really well for £90. If you're looking for a new chair, then definitely go and check out boolies.co.uk. They offer a whole host of gaming and office chairs that come in a variety of different finishes and different colours. The MR3s, I feel, will suit anyone looking for a set of speakers for work as well as play, especially if budget is a concern. For 90 quid, as I mentioned, they're going to easily outperform any sort of gaming speaker sets or soundbars around the same price. And the design itself isn't half bad too. I love the colour choices on the white model I've had for review. They're classy, and thankfully Edifier didn't go down the gamer route when designing these speakers. Overall, I've been pleased with them, and I think they'll suit, again, anyone who wants to, say, dip their toes into music production or audio editing, or if you just need a decent sounding set of speakers for your setup. For the price, I'm pretty sure you'll be happy with them. I've been pretty happy with them. And that's the end of the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave me a like down below if you did. Don't forget to subscribe to Kit Guru to keep up with the latest PC gaming news and reviews. And if you go down below the video, find links to our merch store. And then in the video's description, you'll find links to our Discord server, our Patreon page, and our website if you want to check any of that stuff out. Anyway, guys, I've been Matt. These have been the Edifier MR3 studio monitor speakers on the desk behind me. I'll speak to you in the next one. Look after yourselves. See you later.